Whoop, a company that works with wearable sport and health fitness equipment such as heart rate monitors, recently made a comment about Ronaldo's penalty.
This time scores!
They show a graphic with his heart rate using Whoop, their piece of equipment, and then said, see how CR7, Cristiano Ronaldo, entered a flow state and dropped his heart rate moments before changing momentum. But as I alluded to in a previous conversation with David Farrick, a researcher into flow state from an ecological perspective, he would suggest, and I would suggest, that this doesn't say that he's in a flow state at all. All it's saying is his heart rate decreased. Steve Magnus, a high-performance coach and author of various books to do with high performance and specifically sport, said his HR dropped mostly because the game ended and he stopped moving. That's not a flow state. And you don't need to be a researcher, writer, academic, high-performance coach to recognize that if you stop moving, your heart rate will lower. As you can see, loads of people on these threads were saying, well, he stopped moving, so his heart rate decreased. One of the replies added in some of their own data saying, I entered the flow state when about 5.5 miles into my run today. It was when I stopped to take a piss. Heart rate data can be useful to see. Heart rate variability may be more useful. When company marketing teams and other individuals start making claims about heart rate data related to performance metrics or anything to do with the sports coaching literature without evidence or, I would argue, logic, it firstly is sharing misinformation and myths about what flow state heart rate could be used for in the sports science, sports coaching literature. Second, I would argue this is false advertising because it's not doing what they're saying it's doing, very similar to the brain training that I mentioned in a previous video. They made claims about what brain training can do, but there was limited evidence about it, and they actually got fined quite a lot of money because of their false advertising. And third, which I think is probably the most important, is when you're using data like this and it's misrepresenting what's going on, those people that are skeptical about data may not want to use the data, as seen in some of the comments, but it shines a light on another misuse of sports science and sports coaching literature, making it look less professional. If we want coaching, sports coaching, performance coaching, or coaching in other contexts, if we want that to become a profession or move towards more professional standards, seeing this sort of data really doesn't help. Well, these shallow sorts of interpretations of data at least. And this relates to one of the points I mentioned in a video essay about Rob Gray's book. When it comes to data, sometimes data doesn't actually help and it hinders the performance of individuals. And if we're sharing the data online, maybe that's hindering individuals and other coaches to understand what to do with the data or what not to do with the data, because interpretation is difficult. But having said all that, control of heart rate is certainly useful. We've seen loads of research in various contexts and areas that support this. But when, why, who, what, how will all change depending on the context. But in this context, going from running to standing still, heart rate's obviously going to drop.